recording. So, okay, so let me just start over really quickly just to let y'all know that what I want for us to do today is I want for us to go over the signature assignment final project essay, which, as you all are aware of, this is going to be your final project for our class here. So what we'll do is we'll go over it really quickly. Of course, I'll also give a little bit of background information on the necessity of it in terms of why I've assigned this assignment here, because there is some logic and reasoning for why I have this particular assignment in our class. As some of you all are probably familiar with, every professor, of course, has the academic freedom to decide how they're going to, set up their class within reason, of course. As long as if they're meeting the state core objectives and the state learning outcomes, then you're fine, right? This explains why some professors will, weight grades differently. Some of them will have more tests than the others. Some of them have, they have different types of tests. Like some professors have essay tests, some of them have multiple choice tests, some of them have more assignments, some of them have less assignments. So you probably notice, right, that every professor is different in terms of how they set up their classes, right? Well, that's an example of what's called academic freedom, where professors do have the ability to determine, how the class is going to be set up. High school teachers don't have that because they have to follow like district policy. Like in a high school, you can't have a situation where like a teacher just assigns a bunch of tests and they don't do any daily work, So, I used to do that, right? So that's why I'm glad that I'm in college, and I'm a professor, because I have the academic freedom to decide how I'm going to set up the assignments. Of course, and of course, talking about that, of course, that's why I've tried to make the assignments to where they're not, there's not as many of them. I'm not the type of professor that's going to assign a bunch of all essay exams, because this is STC. That some people I've seen, they run their classes like as if it's grad school, and I'm like, okay, guys, like chill out a little bit, right? Like, I mean, remember, kind of remember where we're at, so to speak, right? But it is what it is. So, but with that being said, what I wanted to, of course, explain to you all is that this signature assignment final essay, the state of Texas has requirements, right? We went over this in the when we talked about the syllabus on the first day, right? That there's certain, core outcomes, certain core learning objectives, like the personal responsibility, social responsibility, and of course we'll talk about that here within the signature assignment essay. But what I want to mention is that these are requirements that the state imparts on us, right? Now, of course, we can determine how we measure those, because again, we have that academic freedom to do so, but we still have to have a way of being able to measure that. Now, this is an idea that I did not come up with. This was something that I got not from STC, but from another college I teach at. But I really liked the assignment so much that I now use it in all my other places that I teach at, because I feel like it's a really good assignment. It's a really cool assignment. It's something that is able to demonstrate you all's understanding of the material. It's basically like a capstone project where it's meant to show that that you're able to apply everything that you've learned in the class, right? So, some of the questions that we have here within the signature assignment will look familiar, because these are things that we're going to be covering within our class. Now, some of it might not be familiar yet because we haven't gotten to those chapters yet, but by the end of the class, you should be familiar with what the signature assignment is asking, because it's no different than what we're going to be covering in class here. So I wanted to just give you all a little bit of background in terms of the purpose for the assignment. It's not busy work. It's not meant to like put you all at a disadvantage. It's an assignment that the state doesn't tell us how we measure the learning outcomes, but we have to have a way to measure them. And this is a way that I have incorporated. Again, I didn't come up with it. Please don't give me credit for that, because it's not, it's something that it's an idea that I got, it's not revolutionary, right? But it is my decision to want to use this as the means for me to measure the learning outcomes of my students, right? So, because I feel it's a cool assignment. So with that being said, okay, let me go ahead and share the screen here so that we can look at the documents, right? Well, let me show you first. Let me go ahead and share the screen so that y'all can see. Let's see, where is it? So y'all can see, obviously, of course, where it's at so far first. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Let me share. Let's see. Is it? Okay, I'll just go to the entire screen. Okay, all right. So if you go here to where the signature assignment is, you're going to see several of these tabs, right? So the first two are the ones that we're going to talk about. This first one is the actual description of the assignment. The second one is the rubric. The rubric is going to be very similar to the description. So we're going to spend more time on the description because the rubric is an extension of the description. I also have a video that I have, a lecture video that I recorded in a previous semester. So you can either watch that one or you can watch this one that we have here in this class. The rough draft, of course, is going to be due after spring break. This is where, and we can also take a little bit of time to talk about what I'm looking for in the rough draft as well. And then the final submission is going to be the Sunday before finals week starts. Okay, so that's not going to be due until towards the end of the semester here. But with that being said, so again, all the information that we're going to go over today is all located here for you all to find. So I definitely recommend, not just to follow along in terms of what I'm going to be showing here right now, but I would definitely recommend that you have these two handy with you all. In fact, what I would definitely recommend for you all to do is either print them out or have them ready for you all so that while you're working on this assignment, you have this next to you all. I definitely want for you all to have the rubric and the description next to you all while you all are working on this so you can know exactly how to do this. I'm going to give you all some hints and some suggestions right now once we get into describing it. But I definitely would recommend for you all to have this ready for you all, have it handy so that you have an idea in terms of how to complete this assignment here. So with that being said, let me go ahead and let me click on the actual description here. Okay, so give me just one, hold on. Okay, so this is the signature assignment for Government 2305. As I've said to y'all before, this is a capstone project. A capstone project, of course, is a type of project that you do at the end of the semester to demonstrate that you all have learned what you needed to learn in the class, right? As I mentioned to y'all before, the state of Texas is not just interested in you all passing the class. They also want to ensure that you have the necessary skills and knowledge from the class, right? So if you see some of this here, like SLO 8, the CT, that's what this is down here, right? These are the core objectives that we went over at the beginning of the semester, right? So when we talked about critical thinking skills, communication skills, personal responsibility, social responsibility, you all are going to demonstrate that within this assignment. I mean, you also demonstrate it within the discussions and the questions that you all ask in class as well, right? I mean, you all are engaging in communication skills when we have those good discussions within the chapter, the chapters that we go over, right? You all are already demonstrating that. You all are demonstrating critical thinking skills when you all are doing the discussions, right? So you're already doing this already, but this assignment is a way to encapsulate all of them into one specific assessment, because that is easier for me because let me well, that's fine. I don't necessarily have to show it to you, but let me explain to you all that at the end of the semester, we have to fill out we have to fill out something in our JAGNet, which is called JAG Pride. That's STC reporting. And what we have to do is at the end of the semester, we have to report on how our students did on these core objectives, right? How did they do with critical thinking skills? How did they do with communication skills, with the personal responsibility and the social responsibility? So instead of having to go through all of the assignments and trying to determine it, what I do is I look at how the students did on this one, right? I look at how they did on the signature assignment, and then that way it's an easier way for me to be able to report to the state, and it's also easier for the college to keep track of, okay, what is how did the professor measure it, right? Because we also have to enter in how we're measuring it. It's not enough. Our word is not enough, right? We can't just say oh yes, Elda displayed all four. Well, the college is going to want to know, as well as the state, they're going to want to know, okay, so how did Elda display all four? What was the method that you used in order to claim that she, satisfied these core objectives? So that's why this assignment is good, because it's able to do so. Okay, now let's talk about the actual assignment as well. Let's get into, because I think this is what everyone is wanting to know, right? This is I'm sure what you all are most concerned about, right? Not in a bad way, but why, what is what is it that you have to do, right? So the Government 2305 signature assignment is called a letter of concern on a national issue to a currently elected U.S. Senator or Representative. Now, I think I've mentioned this before at the beginning of class, right? That basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be comprising a mock letter, okay? It's a mock letter. It's only for academic purposes. If you want to send it, you can, but don't say that your professor made you send it, because that's not the case, right? I am not making anyone send this. This is totally, if you want to send it, you have your First Amendment right to do so as a private citizen, right? The petitioning our government, right? You totally have the right to do so, as long as you do it like not as as you yourself, right? As a private citizen, not because STC is making you do that. Because I'm not making you all do that because I have no right to do that, right? So because I've had students where they actually do send it. Again, you're more than welcome to send it, but as long as you're doing it on your own accord, then that's fine, right? But anyway, so with that being said, this assignment, again, is for academic purposes. It requires you to write a letter to any of the two United States congressional senators representing Texas, or any of the U.S. congressional representatives that also represent Texas. So first find out who they are, that conveys and analyzes your concerns about a national issue. So in a nutshell, what you're going to be doing, and that's why this assignment is broken up into three parts. The rough draft is going to ask you these three questions. The rough draft is going to ask you, number one, who are you writing this letter to? So are you going to write it to Ted Cruz? Are you going to write it to John Cornyn? Are you going to write it to Vicente Gonzalez, Monica de la Cruz, Henry Cuellar? Are you going to write it to someone else that serves in Texas, like Sheila Jackson Lee? Are you going to write to Crenshaw over also in the Houston area, right? You're going to write to any of these, Colin Alred in the DFW area, right? So the requirement is that it has to be a member of Congress, because this is Government 2305, right? In 2306, I have the same assignment, except there you could write to like Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Bobby Guerra, or Chuy Hinojosa, Terry Canales. You could pick any of the state executives, whether the state executives or the Texas legislature, or even your mayor, your county judge, but that's for Texas government, right? So here, it's only going to be members of Congress that represent Texas, right? So what I mean by that is the two senators from Texas and the members of the House that also serve Texas, right? So some of those names I threw out earlier, right? Those are the names that you all can pick here. So what you're going to do first is you're going to pick who you're going to write to. Then you're going to come up with an issue, right? You're bringing up a national issue, a federal issue. Okay, so the letter of concern will demonstrate your ability to effectively communicate by developing and writing an executive summary. That don't really get too scared about this, because this is just, these are fancy descriptive words. But basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to use all eight of these criteria in your letter. So what I would definitely recommend for you all to do is, again, like I said, as you're writing up this letter, make sure that you have this handy with you, because as you're writing the letter, you need to answer all eight of these questions, okay? So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to run through this. Like, I'm going to give you all like an example, and I'm going to give you all like how I would write this if I was, if I picked an issue, how would I go about in writing this? So what you're going to do, like I said, is you're going to the letter of concern will demonstrate your ability to effectively communicate by developing and writing an executive summary that identifies, integrates, critically analyzes, and makes recommendations. That last one is very important, for a solution to an issue that is based on considering the origins, facts, processes, inputs, public opinion, interest groups, political parties, and the intercultural communities they serve. Some of this should sound familiar to you, right? Because we're going to cover this later on in class. And the ethical consequences for the issue and recommendations. So again, like I said, this assignment is going to be broken up into three parts. You're going to pick who you're going to write to in terms of the members of Congress that represent Texas. You're also going to come up with a national/federal issue that you want to write about, and you're going to come up with an ethical solution to that issue. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what this assignment is. Now, of course, it's going to be a lot more detailed than that, because you have to give a description of the issue. You're going to have to research the issue, and you're also going to have to research your solution to the issue, and how this issue is affecting different people within American political society, as well as how the institutions of government are also play a role in this issue. And that's what we're going to talk about here in questions 1 through 8. But in a nutshell, this is what you all are going to be doing, right? You're going to be looking through those, you're going to be looking through those issues, and you're going to come up with a solution to these issues. Okay, so let's start with number 1. Address the following criteria for the letter you will write. So you're going to research the issue and find a constitutional solution to the problem, and develop an ethical strategy that can be used to help implement your policy solution. Okay. So again, remember, you're going to you're going to research the problem, but you're also going to research a solution to this problem. So the first thing you have to do is identify and analyze either a civil liberty, civil rights, or foreign or domestic social/economic policy issue or controversy. Now, the good thing about number one is that almost any issue that you can think of is going to have some sort of national scope. Remember, going back to chapter 3, when we talked about federalism, pretty much almost anything nowadays is, the national government has some sort of involvement. Even education, which is technically supposed to be a state's issue, the federal government even has involvement in education. We have the Department of Education. So pretty much anything, even things that are mostly states issues, the federal government does have an involvement. So what I mean by this is that this opens up the floodgates to where almost any issue that you can think of is going to fit this criteria. It would be very hard for you to come up with an issue and say, yeah, the federal government has absolutely no involvement at all in it, because pretty much everything has some national government involvement, some more than others, but almost anything that you can think of is going to have some sort of national involvement. So that's good for you all, because it doesn't limit what issue you can come up with, right? So pretty much anything that you come up with is going to have some sort of national responsibility, whether it's a lot or not so much. If you're still not sure, talk to me and we can come up with an idea, because the last thing I want is for you all to come up with something that you don't like, that you're not interested in. I want it to be an issue that you are passionate about and that you do care about, okay? So if you're concerned that maybe it might not necessarily be a national issue, that's fine. Talk to me and we'll come up with, we'll come up with something. Or maybe you're just not sure at all, then we'll come up with something together, right? So we'll come up with something that, that you would find interesting. So, okay, let me see. Someone is saying something in the chat. Let me see. Let's see. School choice in Texas and the unintended consequences on separation of state. Yes. So, Elder, that's a good one. So even though that's more so a state issue, you're bringing up a First Amendment issue, right? Freedom of religion, right? So yes, that would be a national issue, because even though it's coming from Texas, it's dealing with a national question, right? A constitutional question about the role of separation of church and state. Okay, so yeah, that's a very good example. Again, it's more so on the state side, but you do see why that there is a national question involved in this issue, right? So yes, that's a great example of how it's more so a state issue, but the national government does have an involvement in it. Yes, so if you want to write about that, that is totally fine. Very, very good example, by the way. That's actually a very, very detailed and very good example here. I'm definitely interested. If you pick that, I'm definitely interested in seeing what you come up with here. So then number 2, demonstrate why this is a national issue and not a state issue. Again, I think a better way to probably word this would be, let's see, somebody's ringing my doorbell. Hold on, give me just a moment. Oh, no worries. Hold on, give me just a moment. Hold on. Brother, yes, hello. Yes, it was a FedEx package. Yes, I'm good. I'm doing my class right now. Can I talk to you later? Okay, bye. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I also have the Ring camera, and my mom decided to say hello, so she's at the other house. But anyway, so with that being said, okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's continue here. So where were we? Okay, we were at number 2, right? So, so again, another, of course, brings a good example right now. As I said before, this question is worded, again, since I didn't come up with this assignment, a way that I would probably prefer to word this, and you can also do this as well, is I think a better way to word it is, why is it maybe, not necessarily not a state issue, but why the federal government has involvement in the issue, right? So you don't necessarily have to say that it's 100% a national issue and 0% a state issue. No, because no issues are like that, right? Some of them are more national, some of them are more state. But maybe you could talk about why it is a national issue. So going back to Elda's suggestion, to answer number two, you could put how, like we mentioned, right, that the reason why it is a national issue and not just a state issue, right? So I think a better thing would be like not just one, is because of that First Amendment issue that's going on, right? The idea of separation of church and state. That of course goes back to freedom of religion, right? So that would be how you could answer, the second one here, right? If we're using her example, that's how you would answer the second one here, right? Because since we are dealing with a constitutional issue within the First Amendment of the Constitution, that's why the national government and it is a national issue. That's why the national government has a stake in a so-called state issue here. So that would be a good example for number two here. So explain how this issue is related to the origin and development of a constitutional democracy in the United States, right? Make sure to provide background on the issue and how it relates to the constitutional foundations and the amendments of the U.S. Bill of Rights. So as you can see, a lot of these kind of build on each other, right? So that's why when you're going to write this letter, you don't necessarily have to put it like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You can kind of embed 2 and 3 together, so to speak, right? Where 3 kind of expands on number 2. So kind of going back to what we were saying, right? You can give a description of what freedom of religion is. Talk about that, right? Talk about, freedom of religion within the First Amendment. So be sure to mention the Establishment Clause, and especially when it comes to this issue, right? That the United States is not going to establish an official religion and should not show preference for one religion over another, right? So that's where you could delve more into this issue about the school choice in Texas and how you feel that this is that those decisions could be the First Amendment freedom of religion could impact those decisions, right? So I would recommend to give more information on like for number 3 for sure, definitely go more into detail on the specific Bill of Rights that you'd be writing about. So in this case, it'd be the First Amendment. So go a little bit more, and particularly freedom of religion. So go a little bit more detail into freedom of religion here and how this relates to your issue. Number 4, evaluate how different people in our society may be affected by the specific issue. What is the public's as well as certain groups like interest groups and political parties' opinion on the matter, right? So 4 is going to be talking about public opinion, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we'll get into that after the spring break here. So what it's asking you all here is it wants to know, how does the general public feel about this issue, right? So like about school choice, look at, so for this one, I would recommend to maybe do some research on, the public opinion of people in Texas, right? Maybe also compare it to public opinion across the country, right? There's polling information that you can look up, right? You could look up Gallup, Pew, the Texas Politics Project also does some good polling. That's the organization that's run out of the UT Austin government program, which, as I said before, that'd be my dream to go get like a government PhD at UT Austin. But when am I going to have the time to do that? I'm already working. So it's, and as I said before, I wouldn't leave to go get that PhD because, there's no guarantee I'd be able to get my job back. I mean, I'm sure, there's no guarantee, right? So why would I leave just to try to get my old job back? So, maybe I'll do it when I retire. But anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So with that being said, look at some of these groups, right? Look at certain interest groups. We'll talk about interest groups later on in the class, right? Look at interest groups in terms of, how do certain some of these religious groups might feel about that issue, right? Maybe some secular groups, like so some of the religious groups might be like focus on the family. Like secular groups might be like the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. So maybe look at some of those groups and how they view the issue, as well as the political parties, right? Look at how how do the Republicans view the school choice issue? How do the Democrats view the school choice issue, right? You could, you can definitely weigh in on all those different groups here, right? Number 5, identify the branch of the government responsible for that policy issue, and if there is a part of any other branch that could also be implicated in the matter, right? So this is asking for you all to look at, which of the branches of government would be involved in this issue. Now, again, because this is a state issue as well, you can also talk about, state government a little bit, right? You can talk about Texas government a little bit in terms of which level of government, which branch of government there, which level of government is also responsible, right? So that's where you can talk a little bit about which of these branches and levels of government you feel are most responsible for this issue, as well as the role that some of the other branches and other levels of government also play within this role here. Number 6, discuss your constitutional solution to the problem and develop an ethical strategy that can be used to help implement your policy solution. So this is important, right? You're going to have to look at the issue itself and come up with a constitutional solution that is also ethical. Now, we haven't got to the Second Amendment yet. We're going to cover that. We'll cover that tomorrow, or sorry, Wednesday. But I like to use that one as an example because let's say you were writing about the Second Amendment, you were writing about the gun issue in the country, and your solution to that gun issue would be to ban all of the guns. Now, you all probably see that there's probably a problem with this, right? That this would not be considered a valid constitutional solution because obviously, of course, we have the Second Amendment to the Constitution, and we will talk about that on Wednesday in terms of what it means, right? In terms of the meaning that the Supreme Court has come up with in recent cases, such as the McDonald v. Chicago case and the District of Columbia versus Heller case, which we'll talk about those two cases on Wednesday. The Supreme Court has ruled on this, right? The Supreme Court has ruled that people do have the right to carry firearms for their own personal protection, right? Because Washington, D.C. had enacted a handgun ban, right? But that was ruled unconstitutional. So you have to make sure, and again, I'm not asking for you all to pretend you're Chief Justice John Roberts or Justice Sotomayor or anything like that. I mean, even the judges themselves disagree, right? I mean, the Hobbs case with abortion, right? A lot of the justices disagreed on that case as well. So you can have disagreements, right? I'm not saying that you have to know 100% whether it's constitutional or not. I'm just asking for you to make a logical argument, back it up with evidence, back it up from your research, and that's all I'm looking for, right? If you make a constitutional argument that you feel that the school choice violates the First Amendment, freedom of religion, then explain why. I'm not saying that you have to know 100%, right? Because even the courts disagree on these things, but just explain why. Give me reasons why. Give me an explanation. Give me evidence. Give me examples, and that's fine. That's all I'm looking for, because I just want for you all to be able to demonstrate that you all know what you're talking about this issue. Number 7, analyze how your action you may take regarding this issue may impact the election process, and discuss how the congressional leader's stance on the issue might impact how you vote in the next election. So, yes, so in this one, you're going to talk about how that, if let's say you're writing to Senator Cruz, right? He's actually up for re-election coming up, right, next year, right? I can't believe his term is already up. I vividly remember, the 2018 election. It's insane how fast time goes. But with that being said, his term is up. So if you're writing to him, you could talk about how that his, the stance that he takes on this issue, how he feels about this issue, could impact you as a voting constituent in this next election that's coming up, right? So you could talk about that, right? You could talk about that. Hey, he's got a senatorial race coming up. He's going to need, he's going to need every vote he can get in the state of Texas. So you can make that argument, right? That because you're a constituent, you have the right to contact him under the First Amendment, and you also have the right to do something about how you feel about his response to this issue, right? So again, you could talk about that a bit, right? You could say, like, if you don't agree with what if you disagree with how he views this issue, then you could say that you're going to vote for his opponent, or if you agree, then you'll vote for him, right? So again, it's that goes with number 7. And then I conclude this letter with why this is a right and responsibility to address this letter to your representative in Congress. So again, I kind of answered it right now, right? Because of our First Amendment right to petition our government, you have that right to contact your representative in Congress and let them know how you feel about this issue, and that it's a right to do so, right? That you have that right within the Constitution to reach out to them and let them know about how you feel about this issue, right? So again, as I've said, this is really all that you have to do, everyone. As long as you answer 1 through 8, I can guarantee you that you'll get a good grade on this, right? As long as, and as long as you're specific with it, right? That you're detailed with it, that you're giving examples, you're answering the questions through those examples. If you do that, I guarantee you that you're going to be fine, and you'll do well on this assignment here. So with that being said, are there any other questions here on 1 through 8? We have a little bit more that we have to cover, but are there any questions on 1 through 8 here? What happened? You just heard, oh, yes, it's because I was using your example. I was using your example here that you know the this one. I was using your example to answer the questions 1 through 8. So I'm sorry that I didn't see the chat earlier, but because you gave a really good one, I felt like okay, we'll use that one as an example in terms of explaining the assignment here. Which, if you're going to pick this one, is good, right? Because I kind of gave you some hints and some examples of how to go about this, right? Let's see, Hazel, are you still here? I want to know if you have any. Um, let's see. Okay, Hazel and Ariana. So I just want to know. Let's see. Is case brought up to the Supreme Court? Let's see. First, okay, let's see. Okay, I'll click on that one a little bit later. Um, can I use that? Okay, I guess let me click on it. Well, I mean, yeah, let me click on it right now. Oh yes, absolutely. Yes, you can definitely use this. Yes, for sure. Yes, that's that. So you're already ahead of the game, right? You already have a resource, right? You already have a source here. Okay, very good. Um, okay, so Ariana and Hazel, I just wanted to ask if any of you all have any ideas, because I know Ilda has an idea about what she wants to write about. Do you all have any other idea? Do you all have any ideas so far, or do you have any inclination on what you might want to write about, or any ideas, any thoughts on what you all might want to do for an idea for your for your topic? Or let's see, Ariana, go ahead.
I don't know, but I think I'm more inclined like to the immigrants. I don't know, but like I really have to look and see what like the immigrants coming like from from Central America and
Mhm.
the type of permission or that they're getting to stay here or like who qualifies and why like
Yes, yes, that's a very good topic because obviously, of course, as we've talked about, immigration is a federal issue.
mm,
It's a congressional issue, right? And then, of course, the executive branch enforces it, and then the Supreme Court and the judicial courts also weigh in on the constitutionality of the policies that are passed. So yes, that's a very good example. That's definitely, for sure, immigration is definitely a big time national issue. Yes, exactly. So yes, that would be a good topic. Let's see. Elda is saying January. Yes, yes. I mean that's definitely a good one as well, right? That would be very interesting. Yes. Yeah, that would definitely be a very interesting one. Hazel says I was thinking of going for something surrounding gun violence, especially with the amount of mass shootings that have happened lately. Okay, so that's another good one too, Hazel. Yes. Just keep in mind, like I mentioned, don't use banning guns as a constitutional solution because the Supreme Court has already nullified that. So if you're going to come up with a solution, make sure that it does not violate the Second Amendment, right? And we'll talk about the Second Amendment next time here. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get to the rest of chapter 4 today. We'll finish that on Wednesday. But yes, that's also another very good good choice for this assignment here. But again, you all have a lot of different choices, so be thinking about that. And again, the rough draft's going to be due after spring break. In fact, let me go to the rough draft really quickly so you all can see what it looks like here. That way, you all have. Let me go over the rough draft really quickly so that way you all can have an idea in terms of what I'm looking for. Again, it's not difficult here. So if you go to the rough draft here, um, basically, I'll add the text here. I'm going to add the 3 questions here. But basically, what you're going to do is, you know what? Let me go ahead and add that now. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me go to the. Let me go to the. Let's see, where is it? I know there's a way to add text here. Okay, yeah. Let me add the questions here. Let me add them really quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the questions right now here in real time. Okay, how would I word this? Okay, then the number two is the okay. Okay, so pretty much what you all would need to do here in this half-page double space is just answer these three questions. So the first one, of course, is going to be the name, and not just the name, but also the position, right? And also talk a little bit about them, right? Like, you could mention about, like, again, if you're going to write to, like, let's say Senator John Cornyn, talk a little bit about like when he was elected, how long he's been there, maybe talk about some of the committees he serves on, right? The federal national issue that you're writing about. So you're gonna note down the issue as well as describe the issue a little bit in detail, right? And then of course you're also going to come up with your solution. Now, this one might be a little bit more difficult, number three, because you might need a little bit more time to come up with a solution. But kind of think of the idea that you have for your solution, right? So you don't, and this can change, right? Let's say if you're doing research and you see that solution probably isn't going to work, that's fine. You can go ahead and change it. But for now, I just want for you all to kind of get an idea. Right? This is what the point of a drawer draft is, right? So that you all can kind of get the, get the, get the, get the process going, so to speak, right? For you all to kind of be thinking already about how you're going to go about with this assignment here, right? Um, I mean, you can even change your topic even after you submit this, right? I mean, I just want you all to kind of get some ideas already, right? So don't feel that you have to commit to it if, let's say, as you're researching more of it, you realize, you know what? No, I think I'm going to change it to something. That's fine. Um, but I want for you all to at least have something here, so that way, I don't want to have a situation, because this did happen the first semester I started using this. I had a situation where I had students were emailing me the night that it was due, and they were like, "Sir, I don't know what this is. What is this assignment?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like, and this was an in-person class, so we had gone over it. So I want to avoid that, right? I don't want to have a situation where you all are just totally caught off guard by this assignment. That's why we're having this meeting discussing it. That's why I have this rough draft due in the middle of the semester, so that you all can understand what it is that I'm asking here. So does the rough draft make sense? And again, it'll be due after spring break. So does that make sense in terms of uh, what the rough draft is asking and all that? Does that make sense? Let's see. Ariana, you had a question, or was that from before?
No, sorry, that was from before.
Okay, no worries. That's fine. No worries. Okay. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I know we just have a couple more minutes. Let me just kind of go over really quickly the last part here. So again, these are some examples of some letters that you all can use. I definitely want for you all to use these examples to where you're going to write up the letter as if you actually were going to send it. So you would, so when it comes out to letter organization, so start out by putting the date on the letter, then put the address of your selected U.S. senator or U.S. representative. Start the letter with the proper salutation. Example, dear senator or representative. So, either Senator Cruz, Senator Cornyn, or Representative Gonzalez, Representative De La Cruz, so Representative Cuellar. So, make sure that you write out, again, you're not actually going to send this, for the class, right? But you're simulating, right? You're simulating as if you actually were going to contact an elected official, right? So take it seriously, right? Pretend that you actually are going to send it, right? So make sure to clearly state the reason for your concern for the issue in your letter. So you also have to understand, like, from their perspective, right? So if, let's say, they get a bunch of letters and they're going through the letters, it's kind of like writing to Santa Claus, so to speak, right? Santa Claus probably gets all those letters, right? So you have to make your letter stand out, right? Because there's a chance that they might not even read through all of them, right? That's of course assuming that they do read the letters, but you have to make sure that you get to the point of your issue, because they have other letters they have to get to. Make sure that you fulfill the criteria listed at the beginning of the handout, which is 1 through 8, like we just went over. Make sure to point out your relationship to the legislator, for example, if you are their constituent. And at the end of the letter, place your name. So you don't have to put your actual address. You can put like a fake address. You're not supposed to put an address. It's fine. You can keep that like confidential, whatever, things like that. So you're more than welcome to do so. So in the format, 12-point times New Roman single space. Now, I know there's a minimum and a maximum. Don't really worry too much about the maximum. If you go over, that's fine. Just as long as you do at least the 1,000 minimum. So from what I've seen, and again, this is also single space too, because again, it's looking like 11. What I've seen over the years is that normally 1,000 words is probably about a page and a half single space. So if you and of course you have a word counter, so you can look it up. And of course, I also have access to the word counter when I'm grading it. Um, so just make sure that that you all at least meet the minimum. And also, just like with the discussions, everyone, don't just be like, okay, I finished 5, and now I'm at 1,000 words, so I'm done. No, you have to make sure that you answer all 8 because, and it's unfortunate that I have to actually say this because you would think that that would be, that you would think that that would have to that it would be going without saying, right? But I have had students in the past where they'll be like, "Well, sir, I did the 1,000 words," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, but you didn't answer these last 3." So they're not mutually exclusive. It's 1,000 words at least, but you also have to make sure you answer these 8, right? So if you're at 1,000 and you've only gotten to number 5, then you're gonna have to write more to answer all 8 of them. Okay, let's see. Plagiarism. Just make sure that that you follow through with the. Make sure that you cite your sources and use the APA formatting. And so again, and again, the outcome, the SLOs and the core objectives. Again, this should look familiar to you all because this is all listed in the syllabus, right? So this is what the state is looking for, right? Are you able to explain the origin and development of the constitutional democracy in the U.S.? Demonstrate knowledge of the federal system, right? So all of this that we talked about before. And lastly, the rubric also goes into detail on this, right? So this is the way you're going to be graded, right? So again, this is just like what we went over, right? It's looking for critical thinking skills, the written communication skills, the social responsibility, the personal responsibility, as well as the student learning outcomes. 1 through 8 here, right? So again, as long as you satisfy all of this, which you'll be able to satisfy all of it through going through the assignment and answering 1 through 8, because as you can see, the rubric is the same, right? Explain the origin and development of the U.S. Constitution, right? That's mentioned here, back here, right, in the down here in the SLOs, right? So I would recommend, like I said, have this accessible for you all as well as this, and use this as you're writing your essay, and you'll do fine. I can assure you that if you have both of these handy and you're using these as a guide, that you'll be able to do fine. So, okay, so with that being said, we're pretty much coming up here at the end here. So, does anyone have any questions? So the 1,000 words is the full assignment for the, yes, right, Ariana, the rough draft is not 1,000 words. It's just the 3 questions. Again, I would say about a half-page double space. That's not going to be too much, right? That's probably what, maybe like 500 words, maybe something like that. So yeah, because again, it's just, I just want the rough draft. The point of the rough draft is just so I can know that you all are working on it. Okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Any other questions before we leave for today? Any other questions? Any other questions? No questions? Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Let's go ahead and end for today. We will cover. So we'll finish chapter 4 on Wednesday. Okay. And then next week we'll start on chapter 5. On Wednesday we just need to go over the Second Amendment, and then unreasonable searches and seizures, Fourth Amendment, and then the Fifth and Eighth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth. I know it seems very lengthy, but we can knock it out in a day because we'll just kind of go over like the main parts of it. So we'll talk about Miranda versus Arizona. We'll talk about Gideon versus Wainwright. We'll talk about those on Wednesday. So okay, everyone. All right. So please keep cool. We'll see you all on Wednesday, and please email me if you all have any questions. Hopefully today's discussion on the signature assignment was helpful. And please, if you have any further questions on it, that's fine. I always get questions on this assignment. It's not a hard assignment, but as you can see, there's a lot of steps to it. So please don't feel afraid to contact me, right? If you have questions on it, please email me, and I will get to you all, okay? Like if you all have questions about the signature assignment or anything else. So, okay, everyone. All right, sounds good. Be safe, take care, and we'll see you all on Wednesday. Thank you all. Take care. Be safe, everyone. Okay. You too, Hazel. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. Thank you.